The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so silent. 712 species, represented by their finest diplomats, sat in perfectly curved tiers that rose toward a ceiling of living crystal. Bioluminescent delegates from the Vorkai Nebula pulsed a deep, anxious violet. The silicon-based Thandri clicked their carapaces in nervous rhythm. Even the ancient, gas-form Allurians, beings who had witnessed 3 galactic ages, seemed to compress themselves tighter, as if bracing for something terrible. At the center of the chamber floor stood one human. Ambassador Darian Voss straightened his jacket. It was a small gesture, almost laughably mundane in a room that hummed with the weight of civilizations. He was not tall by human standards. Not imposing. He had the kind of face people forgot at parties: broad nose, tired eyes, a jaw that carried the stubble of a man who had better things to do than shave. But he stood with his hands loosely at his sides and his chin level, and something about that posture made the delegates in the nearest tier shift uncomfortably. High Chancellor Kaelzer rose from the sovereign seat. The Chancellor was everything a galactic leader was supposed to be. 12 feet of iridescent scales arranged in evolutionary perfection. 4 eyes, each capable of independent cognition. A voice synthesized from the harmonic frequency of 7 different languages simultaneously, designed by ancient engineers to be inherently authoritative in any biological ear. Ambassador Darian Voss, the Chancellor began, the name rolling out like a formal charge. The Galactic Council has deliberated for 1 full stellar cycle. The evidence is comprehensive. The verdict is unanimous. Darian nodded once. He already knew what was coming. His team back on the shuttle had been monitoring the proceedings for 18 months. Earth, Kaelzer announced, is hereby banished from the Galactic Accord. Humanity is to be classified as a quarantine species. All trade routes to your solar system will be sealed. All technology transfers suspended. All diplomatic channels closed. You will be left alone. The chamber erupted, not in chaos, but in the practiced, bureaucratic sound of relief. The clicking of carapaces softened. The violet pulses of the Vorkai shifted toward calmer blue. Centuries of political anxiety, it seemed, were finally being processed. Darian waited for it to pass. Then he smiled. Not a polite smile. Not the careful, diplomatic expression he had worn for 18 months of hearings. This was something different, something that made High Chancellor Kaelzer pause mid-descent back to his seat. Chancellor, Darian said, may I respond? Protocol required it. Kaelzer settled back. You have 5 minutes, Ambassador. Darian walked to the center of the speaker's platform and looked up at 712 species. I want to thank the Council, he began, for the most generous gift you have ever given our species. Silence returned. Confused, this time. For 3,000 years, Darian continued, humanity has been part of this accord. We've paid your tariffs. Operated under your shipping restrictions. Submitted our research for Council approval before we could publish it. We asked your permission before we terraformed Mars. We filed 17,000 forms before we launched our first interstellar probe. He paused. And in that time, how many habitable systems has the Council opened to human settlement? No answer came. Everyone knew the number. 4, Darian said. 4 systems. Out of 11,000 catalogued. Because our expansion rate made the Thandri nervous. Because our social structures confused the Vorkai behavioral committees. Because humanity, frankly, does not fit neatly into your models. High Chancellor Kaelzer's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Ambassador, the Council's restrictions exist because? Because we're dangerous? Darian asked pleasantly. Or because we're different? The question sat in the air. Here is what the Council has actually voted to do today, Darian said, and now his voice carried something that hadn't been present before, not anger, but a kind of quiet momentum, like the first edge of a tide. You have removed every legal restriction humanity operated under. You have closed your trade routes, which charged us a 40% tariff on materials we dig from our own asteroid belt. You have suspended technology transfers, of technologies that, I should mention, our own engineers reverse-engineered and improved within a decade of receiving them. You have ended diplomatic oversight that required council approval for any human military vessel to travel beyond our own solar system. He let that land. Chancellor Kalzer, do you know what humans have been building for the last 60 years? While your committees deliberated? While your approval forms sat in queues? Kalzer said nothing. But his scales had shifted to a darker hue. We have 17 fully functional colony ships that were never registered with the Council, Darien said. Because registration would have triggered a review. And the review would have taken 40 years. So we built them quietly, and we waited. He smiled again. We are very good at waiting. Biologically, it's something we evolved to do: outlast predators, outlast winters, outlast disasters. Patience, Chancellor, is not a virtue for us. It's a survival mechanism. The Vorkai delegates had stopped pulsing entirely. We have developed a full drive, Darien continued, his tone almost conversational now. Not the Council standard tunnel gate system that requires infrastructure at both ends and a licensing fee. A ship-mounted fold drive. Our first successful test was 11 years ago. We have been refining it since. It is, I am told, approximately 4 times faster than your fastest Council vessel. Somewhere in the upper tiers, a delegate made a sound like shattering glass. Several others joined. We have established contact with the periphery clans, Darien said. The species you classified as pre-sapient and left outside the Accord's protections. It turns out they are fully sapient. They were simply uninterested in your definition of civilization. They are, however, very interested in trade. We have been trading with them for 22 years. They make extraordinary metallurgists. High Chancellor Kalzer stood again. His voice, for the first time in recorded Council history, lost part of its harmonic precision. Ambassador. What exactly are you telling this Council? Darien Voss looked up at him. I'm telling you that you didn't banish us. You freed us. He spread his hands. For 3,000 years, the Accord has been a ceiling. Today you removed it. Humanity is not afraid of the dark, Chancellor. We were born in it. Every predator that hunted our ancestors was bigger than us, faster than us, better armed than us. We survived anyway. We spread anyway. We built fires in the dark and called them cities. He turned slowly, addressing the full chamber. The 17 colony ships launch in 6 weeks. They don't need Council permission anymore. The full drive vessels, we have 9, will begin mapping the outer arm within the year. The periphery clans have already agreed to a mutual defense compact. We will encounter new species. We will trade with them, learn from them, probably frustrate them in ways we can't yet anticipate. We will make mistakes. We will make amends. We will keep moving. He returned his gaze to Kalzer. You wanted to be rid of humanity, he said quietly. I understand. We are loud. We are contradictory. We feel things at a volume that makes your species uncomfortable. We ask questions that have no approved answers. We are, by the Council's own classification documents, a statistically anomalous species with unpredictable civilizational vectors. He smiled one last time. We consider that a compliment. Darien Voss picked up his credentials from the speaker's podium, a simple card, stamped with Earth's seal, and tucked it into his jacket pocket. Thank you for the 5 minutes, Chancellor. And thank you, sincerely, for today's vote. He gave a small bow, the kind of bow that contained no submission whatsoever. We'll see ourselves out. He walked across the chamber floor alone, footsteps steady and unhurried, while 712 species watched in absolute silence. No one stopped him. Outside, in the docking corridor, his assistant Jo, a young woman with ink-stained fingers and a data tablet she never put down, fell into step beside him. "How'd it go?" she asked. "They voted to kick us out," Darian said. Jo looked up. "And?" He exhaled slowly through his nose, something that, on a human face, was almost indistinguishable from satisfaction. "And now we go home," he said, "and get to work." Behind them, in the great crystal chamber, High Chancellor Kael'zer stood motionless at the sovereign seat. His 4 eyes, each capable of independent cognition, were all focused on the same point, the empty corridor where the human had been. For the first time in 3,000 years of governance, the High Chancellor found himself wondering if the Council had just made a catastrophic mistake. The stars outside the viewport were very numerous, and very far apart. And somewhere among them, humanity was already choosing which ones to name.